Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful new episode of the StudioMEcast. I am your host Peter, coming to you from StudioME, and today I have a very special guest. This is a filmmaker that I met in Rotterdam for Filmapalooza in 2020. His name is Santiago Oria, and he is the president's filmmaker in Argentina. He has done documentaries. He was the director of a 48 team that, which is how I met him before, and his team went on to be in the Cannes Short Film Corner, which is a cool connection that we have. But over the past few years, I've been following my friend Santiago on social media and occasionally talking with him about politics. And I noticed that he started posting something about this interesting fellow and asked him a bit more about it, and came to understand that Santiago is the filmmaker for Javier Milei, and was telling me about this presidential run and how it was really an ambitious bid for the presidency, how everything was against them for this. But then come December, this previous December here, in 2023, I saw on the news, this man became president. So I reached out to Santiago. I'm like, did your guy just become president? Yes. It's everything's amazing. So we are very honored and pleased to have Santiago joining us from the Pink Building in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Santiago, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Peter. What a great introduction. And yes, that's right. I've been working for Javier Milei since the beginning of his political career, since he was like a total outsider to politics. And in only 3 years, that is a total record and unprecedented in Argentina, and I bet in many parts of the world, he was elected president of the country. It's been really an amazing journey, an amazing experience, very frenetic, very lots of tension, adrenaline, and lots of challenges to overcome. But amazingly, we did it. The country is totally outstanding. Like surprised and amazed, and the world too. And in the US, I am noticing a great interest for Javier Milei. Elon Musk has retweeted some posts by Javier Milei. He has uploaded a video about Javier Milei, and also other figures they look like very interested in what has happened here in Argentina. So it has been really like an incredible experience. And right now we have taken over the office, and so now we are the government of the country, and it's really a great challenge. The country is in really a very, very hard times economically and politically. So we hope we can do the best and really like turn the tide of decadence the country has been in for decades, and put it in a road to prosperity and more freedom and more quality of life for all Argentinians. So let's see, where can I start? When I met you, I wasn't politically active. In US terms, I would be a conservative. That would be the most, or I would be a classic liberal or conservative. In Argentina, a liberal is actually more like a classic liberal, and a libertarian is more like it's not so easy to compare both countries because, but a libertarian in Argentina would be something closer to Ron Paul, the Ron Paul from years ago. I haven't followed him since like the 2008. Mm-hmm. But that would be closer, like it's more like a right-wing or paleo-libertarian kind of a strain of politics, no? So I wasn't politically active because, as it happens also in the US, the industry is more dominated by people that are more on the progressive side, or more, or right now more on the woke side, or on the more left side, and I am more conservative or more right wing. So I just wanted to work and be part of the industry, and I wasn't politically active, even though I held those ideas. And when the COVID pandemic happened, and the quarantines were implemented in Argentina, the quarantines were so brutal and so long. They were like such a terrible restrictions on freedom and to the ability to work, that I decided to become politically active. And I started like to confront these quarantine measures, first independently. So I started making videos on social media against, I wasn't a COVID denier or nothing like that, but I was really against like the so harsh and extreme quarantine measures that were being implemented in Argentina, way harsher than the US and other parts of the world, and also way longer. Like they were forcing us to stay at home for like more than like nearly a year. They were trying to hold us inside our homes. So I became politically active, and someone that was close to Javier Milei sees my work, sees what I'm doing, and she says, you must join together with Javier Milei. He's a libertarian. He's also critiquing the quarantine and all the bad economic consequences that will bring. You should get together because I know you both. You're both quite eccentric characters, and I'm sure you will make together something amazing. So that's the way I met Javier Milei. He wasn't a politician, but he was an economist that was very strong in media. He was like a very colorful character, a very outrageous character, he was already very well known as an economist that went to different TV programs and spelled out his like extreme libertarian or anarcho-capitalistic or Rothbardian ideas, and he was really he made such big ratings. He was like a monster in ratings, but he was not a politician yet. He had not decided to become a politician yet, and many circumstances like pushed him to that place. First, because he started gaining a following that was really amazing. Lots of fans in social media, in Instagram and Twitter. He was getting like a very huge fan base that was also very dynamic and very active with making memes and videos and just crazy stuff. And people were like asking him, please run, you should run, we need your ideas in Argentina. Argentina is a country that has been for decades and decades very, like most of the political spectrum was very leftist or statist. So like he came with ideas that were very disruptive for the country, with ideas of freedom, with ideas of limited government, with ideas of individual rights that were really revolutionary here in Argentina. And so we always had like small classic liberal or libertarian groups, but they were never able to organize politically and gain offices or run for Congress. Like it was always a failure for this side of the political spectrum to get any ground in politics. But Javier Milei was really a very charismatic and a very astute and very cunning and intelligent, and people had faith that he could really be a very effective politician in favor of these ideas. So ever since I've been related to him, I have been like his filmmaker. I have produced and directed all his TV ads, all his ads for TV, and also I have approached his campaign as a documentarian. He's known for being very authentic and very genuine and speak his mind and defy political correctness. So what we decided, and we also had very little money to do campaign with. So I said, we will not use actors. We will not make we won't build a mise en scène. I don't know how to say it in English. We won't spend money like making ads that are fictional and people acting. We will make something that is strictly like a documentary film. Everything will be about his interaction with the people in a real way. So in that way, I made his ads for TV. I produced them with like a small publicity team, a small that's the right word? Okay.
Yes.
And then as a documentarian, I shoot it more like a solo run and gun style, but all his official videos in social media were made by me. And I also then directed, I grew inside his party, and I finally was in charge of everything that had to do with either something video related or photographs, or all his imagery, logos, symbols, his colors, the typography of that, everything that had to do with the aesthetics of the campaign, I was like in charge.
Wow.
So yes, people here sometimes call me his Ministry of Propaganda, Minister of Propaganda. Of course, a horrible term, but like I directed everything that had to do with his publicity and way of and all his ads and way of promoting the campaign, no?
And one of those things also for our viewers is a feature-length documentary that Santiago produced and directed, which you can find a link to in the description of this video. At the time of this recording, there are not English subtitles for it, but perhaps at some point, maybe if you've come along this...
We're working on it because we really don't have time.
Oh, yes.
We're so overworked that... But yes, so... I think that it's very interesting that I don't know how it works in the US or how it is in the US. Some people here, I don't think like him, but some people, I'm trying to make comparisons in the US that maybe you can find a similarity. But some people here call me the little Steve Bannon.
All right.
But I am not nationalist like him. Mm-hmm. So I don't think in the same way, but maybe I fulfilled like a similar role in Trump's campaign. I was not the chief campaign, but manager like Steve Bannon was to Trump, but I did counsel in strategy and in everything that was related to everything that was related to the image of the campaign.
And with social media and video and all this being such a large role in today's world in general, and especially having a campaign who is spending like 50 times less than their opposition for their campaign, it really must have made such a huge impact with the work you did, because it worked. You got elected, so that's really an incredible feat that you've managed to accomplish. Real quick, is there a story to the first time that you met Javier Milei?
Not particularly something I can translate too well, but no, like the first time I met him, he spent like 40 minutes talking about the internal intrigues of the Chicago school in the U.S. of Argentinian economists studying in the school of Chicago in the U.S. Like, because something he's very bombastic and people compare him with Trump. He has many differences with Trump, but he's in my opinion he's more like if Ron Paul was a rock star. Like if Ron Paul was young and had I don't know, because sometimes I don't follow a politician for a long time. I don't know what Ron Paul has become now or his current position on issues, but the Ron Paul from time ago, like very libertarian, And Javier also he makes a big issue about the central bank that would be our local, like the Fed. And I remember Ron Paul had a slogan like end the Fed, end the Fed. And Javier Milei is very similar in that sense. He also wants to end central banking in Argentina. So something I think might be interesting is that normally in political campaigns, the directors, the film directors that take part in other campaigns of other candidates usually come from a more commercial background. So during the year, they are directing ads for Coca-Cola or for a pair of shoes, Nike, something like that. And then they take a job like making ads for a candidate. The Peronist party, I don't know how much familiar you are with Argentine politics.
Just a bit, not as much to say that anywhere near I'm an expert, but I do a little bit of prep for every interview, so I know a couple of things. But however you like to lay it out, particularly for our viewers.
The Peronist party, that is an old party in Argentina that has dominated politics for a long time. It's a party. It's quite authoritarian in its style. I would compare them maybe to something like Vladimir Putin, something like that. Like they're like very authoritarian and use a very like propagandistic style of campaigning. Like the ads are very like brainwashy and very like hardcore propaganda, and like like a bit like Soviet style or even fascist style. They're like, their propaganda is like, as they are the dominant party, they have lots of money, and so they make monumental ads that are worth a lot of money, but everything is a lie. It's like it looks like Stalinist propaganda. Mm-hmm. They say the country is doing great, the economy is recovering, everybody's working, and it's a lie. So even though we were outspent so much in this campaign, people stopped believing in the ads of the government because they were like a complete lie. And so our style, I think I implemented quite an original style of designing a campaign from the ad perspective, is that I conceived the campaign and Javier Milei using the Joseph Campbell's like Hero of a Thousand Faces, like the hero's journey. So I used tools from fiction films, narrative tools inspired from fiction films, such as Star Wars, Braveheart, everything that had to do with a David versus Goliath story, or rebels versus an autocratic central government, something like
Rocky,
that.
Perhaps.
Rocky, of course. Rocky. Every underdog film. We even used the Rocky soundtrack in our political rallies. We played the Rocky soundtrack. Everything that had to do with an underdog story, David versus Goliath story, rebels versus anything that is like more centralized and more authoritarian. I used those narrative tools to like tell the story of Javier Milei and his campaign and how his movement grew and grew and grew. And the campaign worked like a series, like a Netflix series in some sense, because you could follow the ads and the ads were telling a story, and you would get like a better sense of what was happening if you followed the whole campaign like a series, like a story. So wow. I think that was quite impactful and quite revolutionary in some sense, because our campaign was very cinematic. It was very epic, and we were telling the story of a country of a people that wanted to fight for their freedom. So that made a really big impact. Spending very little money, we made a very big impact because I think that we were very good. I'm telling we, but because I don't want to say I. Because I think I was quite good at storytelling, at the storytelling aspect of this. And people really got on board of this great story of people who united to fight against an authoritarian government and against like a very unequal standing between the common citizen and people who were in positions of power. So that's some things I can tell you just to start, but maybe if you want to ask me some question or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really incredible way to approach it.
Just a another small comment before I give you the question. I wasn't my background, my formation, my education was not standard in political campaigns. I didn't study political communication or specifically how to make ads for a campaign. I studied in a film school in Argentina, in the most like it's the most like prestigious one here in Argentina. I studied there, and I studied narrative filmmaking, like fiction filmmaking, and documentary filmmaking. And so I approached the campaign from that angle, like documentary, but also trying to make the documentary be the most narrative-driven possible. So I used the tools of Hollywood to make a political campaign, and I think we had a great success in that. Of course, I don't take all the credit for the campaign. Of course, many people worked here, and also the candidate was incredible, very charismatic, and a great communicator. But I think that was very original as an approach to design a campaign from the filmmaking side. So, Peter, if I give it to you.
It's fascinating because it's almost like you created the biopic about this guy in real time. You know, it's
yes,
like,
no, that's right.
And
yes.
So many people talk about, even in political, campaign ads and stuff, they talk about like, oh, we got to find the story and the relatable thing. But in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel like they're approaching that from the angle that you did as a filmmaker, where that was where you were starting from, where you weren't even political until like basically once you got started with this.
Yes.
So that's really fascinating to me, that how you did that.
I wasn't openly political, but
openly
I had
political. Yeah.
Yes. I had toned down my political I had toned it down, or I was not outspoken because I was trying to find my way in the film industry, and as my ideas are not very in line with the majority, the same happens in the US. So I was more, but then I decided to, okay, I want to take a risk and make a bet on this, and not only it made me more happy because it made me feel that my work had more meaning, and I was really passionate about. But also, it turned out very well.
Yeah, and congratulations again. It's something that I'd like to know is, I mean, from the beginning, you knew that
yes.
This was such an outrageous long shot, to the point where this had never been done
yes.
before in Argentina. It's like you're trying to do something that no one in your country has done, and in order to have that, you have to have vision for that kind of change, and that communicated throughout the entire team. When was the point, I guess maybe, when was the first point when you started to realize that this was working, like that this was gaining the traction that you were looking for? Was there a moment where this like became more real as you were doing it, that you saw the response that you were looking for?
Yes, like our rallies and our activities, when we began, we just walked the street, like hoping people would follow us. And every time it grew, the amount of people who came grew and grew and grew, and the amount of people who wanted to contribute to the campaign grew. It was like a snowball effect. When I began with like the spirit of Don Quixote. Do you know Don Quixote?
Absolutely, yes. Don Quixote, tilting at windmills.
So
Miguel
I
de
didn't care.
Cervantes.
I really didn't care if we won or we lose. Like I was really happy to make something that was in accordance with my ideals. So that already made me very happy. But I think that we were so passionate and we worked so hard and we really had such a big conviction and such a big sense of a mission that we really beat our competitors, even though they had so much more resources. The thing is, I want to try to help you picture how extraordinary this is. This is like it's not maybe as in the US. It's much more strict, but it is the first time a third party wins the presidency in Argentina since we recovered our democracy in 1983. So
wow.
It is the first time a third party candidate wins. And even though in Argentina it's a bit more flexible, in the US it's really more like a two-party system, and it's really hard for a third party candidate to have any real chance at winning.
To even get on the ballot in some cases, yeah.
Yes. But here it's the first time someone who is an outsider with a new party wins the presidency. Some of the causes of this is that both major parties have been failing for decades. Like every government is worse than the previous one. So the people were really tired. Like they were looking for a new leadership and for new ideas and to try something new because everything has failed. I don't know if you know much about the story of Argentina, but Argentina is quite tragic in that we've been in a downward slope since decades, really. And we're hopeful maybe we can start changing and go in the right direction. Of course, in my opinion, the right direction is to a more freedom-oriented country, more free market, more capitalism, more liberties for everyone. So that is my opinion, what would be the right way to go. But it's really extraordinary what has happened. And I have lost a bit the line of the discussion, but
this is fascinating to hear everything you just said. The original question, to circle back to it, you kind of answered it, I think, with the rallies growing, but the question just was there a moment where you start to realize this is working and gaining the traction that you wanted? Because it's such an extraordinary thing that happened. Yes. It's like, when was the first clue you got that, hey, we could pull this off?
Yeah. Yes. So before being elected president, Javier Milei went through another election. In 2021, he ran for Congress. So when he ran for Congress, nobody thought he could win the race. Nobody thought he could get to Congress, or if he get into Congress with like a very small percentage of the vote. In that way, Argentina works more like a multi-party system. It's different from the US, but nobody really was expecting too much about Milei in 2021. But suddenly we had quite an important result of 18%. That is, in Argentina, it's a lot if you are just beginning. So suddenly everybody was surprised, like, whoa, this guy just built up his party and he's getting like nearly 20% of the vote. And also what was very surprising was that he was getting a lot of vote from the poor people, from people from the slums and people who are very poor, that traditionally vote more parties that are left or socialist or Peronist. and to vote something that was like free markets and individual responsibility, and that was quite amazing. And so in that way, they said, okay, there is a chance to make a great election in 2023 for president, but nobody really knew how well we would go. And I think we even surprised ourselves with because before the final vote, you have like a primary and then like a general election and then a ballotage, more similar to how the French system works. And every successive election, we're getting like amazing results and growing and growing and growing and growing. Mm. And so, yes, even though it seemed impossible, like he said, okay, this is possible. It is possible. It was really surprising all the way up till the end. It was surprising. But as I told you earlier, like we were not really working, like we didn't mind if we win or lose, but we were doing everything possible to win, like working the shit out of ourselves to win and giving everything. Like I really ended the campaign like destroyed physically and emotionally, and it was everything like so hard.
Tell me a little bit about that. When the election results...
It wasn't about its hardships, and we also had along the way quite important like treasons from people inside our party that really damaged us, but we could recover from that and go on. So yes.
Well, tell me a bit about just when the election results came in.
Yes.
Were you with the newly elected president at that moment when he got the results? What was that scene like?
Yes. I was with him as there is a selfie of me there in my Instagram of that moment. So I don't know. I think we weren't really like how to say it in English? Like we weren't really like realizing if this was real or not, if it was a dream, like what has just happened. It was like really, oh my God, we won. Like nobody was really expecting it, even ourselves. Some of us were like with a lot of faith in winning, but it was like a question mark until the end, really. Because something that in the US, maybe you also have some problems with this, but in Argentina, there is a percentage of the vote that is quite fraudulent, like there is fraud. You know, like people steal ballots or alter the result, so there is like a percentage of fraud that everybody knows it is there, and it's very hard to fix. Do you know what I'm talking about? No, like
yes, absolutely. Yeah, like there's election fraud. It can be hard to
so election fraud
sometimes.
Electoral fraud in Argentina is like quite common, not in a big scale, but in a small scale that it's maybe enough to turn an election. So at one point we said, okay, we are going to win, but maybe they steal the election from us with the fraud. But luckily we could organize a very effective control of all the voting places, and we could prevent that fraud. But we were really scared of that too. Like, no, it's really incredible what happened. And it will be the subject of another movie.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I am constantly, during the campaign and now during the government, I am constantly like filming everything that Javier Milei does. I am like a documentary of filmmaking, like following him. And every day or not every day, but most days of the week, I produce a video of that thing that happened. But as the months go by, I gather a lot of raw footage. I say, okay, this that worked for the little ads we went doing along the way, now is enough raw footage for a movie. So in a way, I work on the day-to-day of the campaign while I keep like treasuring like an enormous amount of raw footage that will eventually go to a more important movie, so to a feature-length movie.
Well, it's also a very important position. You're creating a whole nother type of historical archives for your country. You know, it's like
Yes,
this is stuff that people will be able to look back on forever and
that's right.
get that, like, you know, front row seat to what happened. I think it's also so especially interesting and valuable that you have this documentary that you put together during the course of the campaign, and now you're still the guy in charge of this aspect of now
The
the government.
documentary, yeah, the feature-length documentary was the launch of the presidential campaign.
I
The
see.
the avant premiere for the documentary was the launch of the presidential campaign. So that
Got it.
was really, really unique. What it was very unique. And when we launched the presidential campaign, the party was having internal problems. Like the party was having like infighting, people not agreeing on many issues, or not agreeing on strategy or tactics. So we were a bit like demoralized and saying, okay, we're launching the campaign, but we are not in a really good shape. And when the documentary premiered and it was like the launch, the official launch of the campaign, it really raised the morale of everyone, and it really really increased our energy and our our desire to fight and to give this fight. And so the documentary played quite an important role. And the avant premiere, of course, Milei was there, the candidate to vice president was there, every important party member, like the most important party member, were there at the premiere. So it was quite a unique political event to launch a presidential campaign with the premiere of a documentary. So it was quite amazing and quite unique. And it really fulfilled the role of raising the morale of the party and our desire to fight and our desire to look at the big objective and to try to put down our internal squabbles and fights. And so it was really unique in that sense. It played an important role in the campaign, and it also told our story. Well, why we're here, who are we, what are we fighting for, what are our ideals and our proposal for Argentina. So it was like an incredible, it was really, really unique in that sense, because I don't know about many political campaigns that kick off with a documentary, with an avant premiere of a documentary where all the party members go there. We were like, not everyone, but we were like 1,300 people watching the film in a
Wow.
big theater. And that was the way the campaign began, and the journalists were there, and they're saying, okay, this movie is setting the frame for the campaign. And so it was really amazing.
That's incredible, because so much of the
Yes.
time when there's a political film or ad or something like that, a lot of the time it's pointed outward. But the fact that your party came together and it helped get everybody within the party who was already, like, there was all this infighting, as you mentioned, but it got people on the same page,
That's right.
really is something that you really have to hand it to your ability to wield the
Of,
power of cinema, right?
of
That's an
yes, yes.
incredible
Of course,
thing.
I'm simplifying a bit. Of course, like a little bit of the all parties have internal problems all the time.
Hmm.
But it really, that people said that it was really like very motivational the film was very motivational to face the challenge of the presidential campaign. So
Now,
uh,
as a filmmaker, this is a question that's occurred to me in our conversation. You've made this film, you've created the videos for this entire campaign, and now you're the day-to-day documentarian as well within the government.
yes,
Is the fact that as an artist you have a perspective and you've put a lot of this into terms narratively, but
yes.
the perspective you have as an individual, is that something that you think about and weigh when you're trying to give, like, I don't know, get the kind of objective coverage or anything like that? It's like you're an artist and you're an individual, but you're also doing this work that is, like we said, documentary archiving, like for your country's history. Are these things that are on your mind?
No, yes, of course. I'm trying to find a way to explain it, but yes, of course, I am like conscious of the fact that I am documenting a story that is totally historical for the country, and that the footage I am getting is like historical and unique, and that it could be, even though it is used in a campaign, it has a historical interest in itself. So yes, totally. I don't know how it usually works in the US, but I bet the presidents have a filmmaking team that follow him, or he doesn't. For example,
I know
Joe
that
Biden,
different presidents in the United States, they have the presidential photographer who hangs out with them all the time, and sometimes they'll publish, basically a portfolio, like a book of all these moments they have, and it's I'm sure they've got people with cameras around all the time doing everything, but
I think my role maybe is kind of unique in the sense that I cover him as a documentarian, but I also use that material to campaign for him. Like, so something important is like I work with low budget or no budget at all. Like, so it's very kind of guerrilla. It's very guerrilla filmmaking. I use my highest end camera is a Sony FX6. That model. That is like the highest model of camera I use. Most of the time, I used a small Sony NX80, that like small camcorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also use a lot the cell phone, the iPhone. I have used in the campaign an iPhone 13 Pro Max that was like the best one at that time. Now I should upgrade to the 15. But those are my cameras. But I also I have formed like a political group of filmmakers. It's like a group, like a unit, so to speak, of voluntary filmmakers that help me out. And when we have a big rally or something like that, I summon them and I tell them, come, everybody, film as they can with any camera they have. You have a Canon DSLR, go ahead. You have a cheap cell phone, it's fine. Just get pictures. And then I gather all that raw footage and I use it in the ads, in the movie.
Wow.
So it's very guerrilla style. It's a very guerrilla kind of style of filmmaking, and low budget filmmaking and no budget filmmaking. All the locations we used to film like the TV ads, we got them for free. People who were supportive of the candidate said, okay, I have a big warehouse. I can lend it to you so that you can make your ad. So everything was like trying to find ways to film with as low budget as possible. The Robert Rodriguez School of Filmmaking, there we go. So everything was very guerrilla, very solo style, or getting help whenever I can. So as you can see, I was inspired by the work of filmmakers, of film directors from Hollywood, and that work in fiction or other kinds of documentaries, and applied to a political campaign. My favorite documentary filmmaker right now is Errol Morris. He has made this film, the Thin Blue Line, that won an Oscar. And then,
yes, I've heard of it. Yes.
And then there is another film about the Vietnam War and McNamara. Well, if you Google him, he's quite well, at least for me, he's quite well known. So, ask me a question that might help me continue talking.
Absolutely. So, you've been you're part of this campaign. You're doing the day-to-day stuff and filming. But I imagine you get to spend some time with the president behind the scenes. Is
Yes.
there a difference between the man in front of the camera versus when you stop recording?
No. He's very authentic and very genuine, and he's really the same man. Really. Of course, every campaign that is strategic, of course, there is a public side and a private side, but he's very genuine, and it's not me, not only me that says it, everybody who knows him says, no, he really is that way. He's really like very passionate and he does lots of crazy stuff. For example, this got quite viral. I don't know if you catched any video about it, but he used a chainsaw in the campaign. Like, I'm going to cut spending with a chainsaw. And he held the chainsaw, like a real chainsaw, like, whoa! So he's really, so I don't know if you have followed a little bit, but for example, Tucker Carlson made him an interview.
I saw that.
It's the most viewed interview ever of Tucker Carlson. More views than Trump, for example. You can check it out, yes. And also, like, Ben Shapiro has spoken about him, like, Roger Stone sent me a book because do you know Roger Stone?
Isn't he not Oliver Stone, Roger Stone?
No, this guy.
Oh, I'm not sure I do.
He's a Republican political operative. You can Google him. There is a documentary about him in Netflix called Get Me Roger Stone. Okay, this guy has worked for Reagan, he worked for Nixon, for Reagan, for Bush, and for Trump. And he got in touch with the Milei campaign team, and he sent us an autograph of his book.
Wow.
He's
That's
quite well known.
Cool.
And do you follow politics a lot in the US or more or less?
I do a bit. I try to focus on the rings of my life that I have more of an effect in. There's different issues that I'm personally more invested in than others, but it's in fact, one of the things that impressed me a lot over the years was when you and I would talk about politics in North America, here in the United States, and the breadth of knowledge you had of someone else's country really impressed me. No,
because I really haven't been following it lately, but U.S. politics is very entertaining and very interesting, and the stakes are so high there, like who wins the control of the most powerful country in the world. Mm-hmm. It's a spectacle to watch, and it's very interesting. And so yes, I used to follow it much closer than right now. I think that the Biden president is quite boring. Like, nothing really. I don't know. Maybe from there, but
it kind of depends where you are and what news outlets you get. Some people report as though nothing's going on. Some people report as though the sky is falling, and it's really, there's definitely an oversaturation of media and news media in the United States, and it can be very difficult for people to discern what's actually happening or not, and then what news is actually valuable and important, because there's some stuff that maybe doesn't get reported as much that more people might be more interested in if they learned about. It's all in the mainstream corporate news media in America is a very intensive, complex, and often divisive topic. For certain. So
from 2008 to the end of the Trump presidency, in my opinion, the politics in the U.S. have been fascinating.
It's been interesting, to say the least.
Because even though they come from a different political spectrum, both Obama and both Trump, like, totally amazing characters, like people who were really unexpected and really were very disruptive in their own way. and who really like shook up politics in a big way, both of them. Obama like surprised the whole world with his style, with his hammer. I don't like too much his ideas, but I have to say that he's very charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
His campaign of 2008 was revolutionary, with hope and change and the use of social media. He really got the attention of the world. I don't know, but he got the attention of the whole world. And then we had Trump, that boom, another kind of explosive candidate. So, but after Trump lost, I haven't followed too much U.S. politics as close as I did before.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I was really interested in how the U.S. system works and all that. It's really, for me, it was kind of a hobby, but of course, I learned a lot about that and applied it in Milei's campaign, both from Obama and from Trump.
Now, speaking of United States politics and bringing it back to Argentina at the same time, I saw in a few videos and pictures a familiar old American flag being waved by a lot of people. Don't tread on me flag. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's come about?
Yes, I suppose you must find extremely weird that like so far south, like people are using that Gadsden flag from the period of the American Revolution.
Well, it depends, because I mean, there's been a few times where I've seen different parts of the world where some oppressed peoples in different countries have pulled out American flags and waved them because there are rights and liberties that they want to have that they don't under their present regimes. But I didn't want to assume any particular use of like what that flag means to y'all or how you've been using it. So in your own words, could you let us know?
No, so the short story is that Javier Milei brought all these ideas of more of a hard capitalist ideas, more like anarcho-capitalist ideas. And he said, okay, the symbol of these ideas internationally is the Gadsden flag. And so he started wearing that flag in his public apparitions, and he started, he always walks around with a notebook, and his notebook is of the Gadsden flag. And so he popularized the flag here among his following. At the beginning, his following was very, very young. And it was kind of an, I don't know if the term is exactly this way in English, like an urban tribe. Like you have like the punks, the skaters, the reggae people. And so his following was kind of a tribe, no, like a kind of and so they wear that flag, and that flag had never shown up before in Argentina in politics, but he popularized it. He said, this is our symbol, and in that way he's because he gets compared a lot with Trump, but he's quite different in many aspects.
Most of the research, just to jump in on that real quick, I've heard a few people mention that he's compared to Trump, and honestly, most of what I have seen as far as similarities are less political and more about the situation of how remarkable his election is and how he hasn't previously been in politics. So it's less of he's like Trump because he has similar policies and views or even rhetoric, so much as this guy came out of nowhere and won. And that being like, when people hear that, just that phrase, like, who can you think of who came out of nowhere and won? A lot of them will think of Trump. So I guess that's
internationally, he's more on the right wing side of the spectrum, but he's really not a nationalist. So he's not in favor of protectionism, or he's not against immigration. On the contrary, we want more immigration. It's like, in that way, he's quite different. But he's more conservative on the social values. He's pro-life, but he's not traditional marriage. Everybody can make whatever they want. So But yes, so
Well, with views like
don't
that, it
worry.
seems just how it, with views that to someone in the United States, that's on so far on both sides of the aisles that it seems like unfair to look at him through the lenses of a political system from the United States
Yes,
with
yes,
whether
yes, I
he's
know.
right or
Yes,
left wing. It's like he's got a bunch of different things because, hey, it's a different country and you've got a different situation going on to begin with.
yes.
So I think that's, um, I know that there's plenty of people out there who are turned off by the idea of anyone who's compared to Trump, but from what I've seen of this, your new president, and what his views are and what he's done, um, I wouldn't equate the two as
No, no, no.
individuals at all.
No, no.
So
There are some commonalities, but also differences in other very important issues. But internationally, they are like part of the same anti-establishment. No, they are like this anti-establishment of this more socialist or control-oriented establishment, or the we have right now.
right,
So he's very pro-freedom. So um, in the U.S., he would definitely be a Republican, no doubt, because he would be like those Republicans that are more libertarian than conservative. I don't know if you.
right.
So
Well,
okay. No, so from the side of filmmaking, I think like it's quite interesting, like the approach I have built using a lot of volunteers to have lots of cameras everywhere, and then centralizing all the raw footage to make the ads, to make the videos, to make the movie, and working with very little to no budget, make a campaign with a really compelling story. It didn't matter if the image was 4K and had the best resolution and the best dynamic range and the best photography. If the story was strong, we would have an impact. So in that way, I think we made up like we told the best story. I don't know if you know him, but I'm quite inspired by this guy that appeared in recent years that is called Jordan Peterson.
I
Do you
am
know?
familiar. Yes.
All right. So he has also been quite an inspiration to me, especially when he says you have to tell the truth, you have to say the truth. And so we really made a point about that. And the economy in Argentina was so bad, people were having such a bad time, like so much a hard time, lots of unfulfilled basic necessities. And we basically told the truth. We told the truth. We told how we view the country and why we were failing, and what was our proposal for the country, and we really stick to that. We didn't mind too much about the polls, because in Argentina most politicians they stand on their issues according to what the polls are saying. But we didn't really care. We say, okay, we will say exactly what we think, and if we do well, great. If we don't do well, it doesn't matter. At least we stood on principle. So, but I think that our approach of being very honest and very straight talking about what our real ideas was, it took us very far in a country where most politicians lie all the time. Like in Argentina, politics is really ugly, really dirty. And so people were fed up with traditional politicians, with all the lies, with all their like flip-flopping on the issues, following the polls. And they found a candidate that was very honest, that didn't change his ideas based on the polls. And many people said, I don't agree with him on everything. And maybe I don't agree with this or that policy, but at least he sounds honest. So I'm going to vote for him anyway. So that was also like a big factor in my opinion.
Well, that's fantastic. It's certainly a story that resonated with the people of Argentina once again, congratulations to you and Javier Milei, President Javier Milei. And thank you so much for spending some time just talking with me today. It's been great to catch up with you.
It's been a pleasure.
As well.
I hope you could explain myself as better as I could.
Very well. Yes, very well, I thought. And also, if people want to follow Santiago on social media and see what else he's posting, we'll have stuff like that in the description below, as well as, reminder, a link to that documentary that he made that kicked off that campaign, which ended in success.
I think that a part of this victory is explained by the power of filmmaking and how filmmaking can really mobilize people, that can really have an emotional impact that mobilizes people for a cause. And that's some of the lessons that we can learn from this story of this campaign, is that filmmaking really is powerful and can really have a great effect on people and their opinions and the outcome of an election. So I really think we were, even though working with a lot of less money, way superior on the storytelling and the ad side of the campaign. So I think we did a great job. And right here, I'm here on the pink house that is the equivalent to the White House. So it's really crazy.
Well, it's amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful time on your trip to Antarctica, which you'll probably be on while this is airing. So thank you again so much. Congratulations. Once again, best of luck to Argentina. We wish you all the best from your friends in North America to South America. Where we will watch with great interest on how things progress. For the president through the lens that you're holding. So we look forward to that.
I encourage you to see what Elon Musk has been saying about Milei and his interactions with. He has called by phone to the president, and he has tweeted about Milei that it's really quite impressive for us that the owner of Twitter X, what is now X, is like so interested in his figure and story. So, okay, Peter, see you another day.
All right.
It has been a pleasure to talk to you.
You as well, Santiago. Thanks a lot again. It was great to, catch up with you.
Excellent. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to start your own podcast, why wait? Reach out to us at StudioME.me, and I hope you hear me again soon.